Norm from Tested here at the SteamVR Developer Showcase. Virtual reality games, some of them want to take real-world experiences and port them into the virtual world. For example, Minigolf or Putt-Putt. This next game is exactly just that. Let's go check it out and chat with the developer afterward. So I'm here with Justin, who's the co-founder, founder of Future Town. Your game is Cloudland VR Minigolf. Minigolfing in VR, is it as simple as it sounds?
Yeah, it's as simple as it sounds. Anyone can play. Even if you haven't played minigolf in real life, you can play it in VR. My nieces and nephews, they love it. My parents love it. I've even had my son, 3 years old. He can even play around in it.
Yeah. The mechanics are simple. You're holding the controller like you are the putter, but also you can teleport because the courses can be pretty vast. And so your teleportation mechanic is where the ball ends up being. Why did you choose where the ball is as opposed to letting the player choose where they're going to land up?
That's a really good question. We started with that mechanic, but we found that people, they want to go to where the ball is anyway. That's where they're going to go. So why not make it easy for them? They just push the trigger once and they're where the ball is. And the ball is centered right where they last hit from. So it should be right between where you hit it from last. We had it before where if you manually warped, but you would end up having to nudge yourself into position. And we just found the auto warp worked really great.
You're doing instantaneous warp as well, no fade out. Just like the moment you press the trigger, you're there. I found myself actually trying to, as I teleported to the ball, I would then figure out where my room walls are and then kind of reorient myself and then press the trigger again. So I would reposition the ball relative to the room.
Yeah. We keep the your physical play area bounds always on, so you kind of know where you are in your room at all times, and you can choose to recenter the ball if you want in your play area to the middle by pressing it twice.
Now, because minigolf is such a precision sport, you need to have the floor level, you need to be able to have exactly the force, or at least the speed, in your case, of how you're moving, faster you're moving the controller. The putters are different heights. There's no occlusion between the ground and the end of the stick. It actually just shrinks.
Yeah, so the original demo just had the putter at one length, and you could kind of tap forward and back to get the putter longer and shorter. And we ended up finding people ended up either swinging under the ball or over the ball, because it's really hard to tell where you are in VR with the end of the club. So what we do is we auto-scale the putter. So based on, we have 3 sizes, kind of small, medium, and large size clubs. And then they all, if you put it to the ground, they'll all touch the ground and auto-scale. So if you push down, you won't go through the floor. So that way, every time someone swings, that they're not going under or over, because that could be really frustrating.
But then does it matter the angle at which you have the club approach the ball? If you tilt it up just a little bit, I mean, it matters the angle, the direction you're putting it in, but the actual angle?
Yeah, the vertical angle does matter a little bit, but we've toned it down a bunch because in VR it's really easy to kind of not tell exactly what your vertical angle is. So we've kind of given a little bit of help there to keep the ball on the ground.
You're measuring then speed for the force. How do you get the player acclimated to know how much force is equal, how fast is equal to how much force if you're not actually putting a lot of force in?
Yeah, that's a good question. So before we started the project, we went and played minigolf at our local minigolf place, got a feel for kind of what looked right. Went to Unity, prototype a bunch of different kind of force mechanics, and went back to the real life minigolf again. Saw how close they were. They weren't really that close. Iteration, and then now I think we feels like we have something that feels really true to the real minigolf kind of feel.
Minigolf also known for its levels and creative level design. In virtual spaces, you can do all sorts of crazy things, lots of vertical spaces. What are the things you want to experiment with in VR in terms of level design?
Yeah, like our first few levels, we had kept it pretty vanilla, and then as we got used to designing minigolf courses in VR, we started doing some way more crazy things. Like we'll start up here, we'll spiral down, go around, go through a cave, or have these really weird enclosed spaces where it opens up to large areas. So, or even multi-islands where you're kind of skipping between different islands. So we once we got used to designing those kind of crazier experiences, it was a lot of fun. So we've done a lot of different stuff. I think this first version is still pretty accessible for a lot of people. Hasn't gone too crazy, and we're thinking about the next. If we do a DLC, maybe that'll be even more like kind of next level VR crazy mini golf.
Minigolf also a very social experience. You want to go with friends, not many people play by themselves. So how are you making this a social experience?
Yeah, so we're going to have local multiplayer. So that means we'll probably have up to 4 players be able to play. Each person plays an entire hole. Then they'll take off the HMD, switch it to the next person. And then online multiplayer will be, full synchronous multiplayer. So 4 people will be in the hole at the same time. Putting around, you'll be able to see everybody at the same time. We'll have avatar representation in there as well. And there'll be Steam achievements and online connectivity.
Wow. And it's for multiplayer, it's mostly for VR in VR. So you're playing with other people. Are you thinking of doing a social experience where some people can not have the VR and maybe observe with just a monitor?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We have a broadcast camera now that we have turned on. So if you don't want to watch the person who's in VR in a first-person kind of camera mode, you can switch it to broadcast mode, and that has a dynamic camera that will fly you around the level and follow the player as they play. So that's kind of the couch mode that we'll have. So if you're doing local multiplayer, the 3 guys sitting on the couch can just watch from a broadcast view. The other guy playing. When the other guy's done, he takes it off. The next guy switches. And that broadcast view also has information like the hole, the par, what the stroke is, etc.
You mentioned DLC, which means that you have a lockdown number of levels and the content for the initial release. What is that going to be? How many holes?
So we're going to be doing 1 course, 18 holes for the first launch, and then the local and online multiplayer, and then the DLC will be probably another full 18.
Now, the Vive comes with 2 controllers. You're only using 1. Is there any opportunity to use the other controller track to do something fun for other players, to do something more social?
A good question. We're musing at the possibilities of doing a course editor. I think in that type of editor, we may go to the 2 controllers. We had 2 controller support at the beginning, but it felt like an extra cumbersome thing that you wouldn't really have in real mini golf. And we like the ability to hold the controller with 2 hands while playing. In the multiplayer space, maybe you can mess around with the other guys with the other controller. Something we're working on.
Have someone hold the sign up, the quiet please sign. That's all you need.
I love that. Yeah, definitely we should have that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for chatting with us. Thanks. Can't wait to play the full game.